All right, you're now mute. You probably can hear me, right? Yeah, but you're muted from the stream. It's like 35 seconds. There are already people talking there or something. Well, there's already 13 people. I have this switcher that I can do from my iPhone. I can switch these scenes. Yeah, it is actually quite cool. There's 20 people. I can see how many are. All right, everybody. Now we're here live. Can you hear me? Well, great to see you. Already 20 people out there, and I have a special guest today. But before we start, there are a few things that I want to ask you. I hope you all are safe because the situation in the world is pretty crazy, and here in Finland also everybody is kind of like instructed to stay home and avoid, access again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just seeing a timer.
Oh yeah. Let's see what it happens here. All right. Do we have a picture again? There's something wrong with the stream. But as I was saying, that I hope everybody is safe. And but let's get Rob in, and let's get Rob in. Can you guys see Rob now? You're Rob in the stream. Welcome, Rob. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great, Peter. How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm fine too. And what about the situation over there? We've heard some alarming news that it's not going too well.
Yeah, the numbers have spiked quite a bit here in terms of number of cases, but that's mainly due, I guess, because they're testing a lot too. But locally, to me, in my state and the surrounding states, we've all been ordered to stay at home now as of this week.
Oh, I see.
So that's kind of new, and I've had to cancel a couple of jobs because of that. But it's for the best, I mean, I feel fine, and it's like if I go out, probably nothing will happen. But then, if there's like 1,000 idiots like me going out, something's going to happen, right?
Yeah, that's true. Well, Robin Wong is here again. He's always on this live stream. Hi there, Robin. And hi, everybody else,
Robin.
too.
Hi. Awesome. I see a lot of, I see some of my regulars there. Hey, Kostov, how are you?
That's cool. They following you.
Yeah, John.
But this, before we get into the Q&A, I want to ask a few questions of Rob, now that I'm the host, that I can ask him questions. And I think it was in January, I watched an old video where you explained why you started the YouTube thing. And I don't know if how many have actually gone back to those videos and seen how it's been. So how did you start doing YouTube videos, and why? It's a lot of work.
It was I think you're talking about episode 100. I was celebrating my 100th episode, and I thought that would be a good time to kind of talk about why I started the channel. But I had originally bought the website domain RobTrek a few years before I even started the channel. And it was originally I was just going to post pictures of me out hiking and, camping and things with my dog Riley. And then I started to try to get some idea of how to start the YouTube and share the videos as well, because I didn't want to just post pictures. I wanted to have video. And unfortunately, he got very ill, so I wasn't able to, log any of those adventures with him, and he passed away shortly thereafter. But I bought a small compact camera, the M10 Mark II, to take with me on my hiking and camping, because I wasn't, I was carrying Nikon gear all the time, and I wanted something small and light. But after he passed, I had all this knowledge built up of how to start a YouTube channel and how to use these cameras. And I said, I really bought into Olympus for the ergonomics, right? The size, the weight, just the dials and everything I loved. But once I got into the menu systems, I was really, it flustered me a little bit. But I got, I got proficient at it. And I said, well, I have this channel, RobTrek, that I decided, let me just go ahead and teach people what I've learned so far about the menu system, because I know as a new owner of these cameras, it can be very frustrating. So that's really why I started the channel, or not why I started it, but what I started doing on it. And I got a lot of good feedback and a good response from that. So I said, okay, well, if it's helping people out, I can do some more. Why not, right? And 3 years later, here we are.
Oh yes, and I remember a couple of years ago I used to watch some of the videos because you had really good tutorials on those, and
Oh, really?
like we talked before we started this live stream, that there is so much to learn, and when we teach and make these videos, we all have a bit different approach to photography, and that
Right.
in that sense, I think we kind of like add on to each other's channels. We're totally different, even though we might have quite a few same subscribers and viewers, but otherwise, I
Yeah.
think the channels, like all the other Micro Four Thirds YouTubers, have a bit of different approach, and they do a bit different things,
Right.
and I think those things, and it's a good thing. Everybody can pick their favorite and which resonates
Yeah,
with them,
absolutely.
and that's
I think like the toilet paper challenge, we all approached it very differently. Um, and but it's the same thing, right?
yeah, it is the same thing, and it looks the same all over the world, but still I think there were like 50 toilet paper roll with the hashtag
Wow.
in Instagram, so you might want to
Wow.
see some really funny
Yeah, I
things.
did catch a few. I saw some even now from 3 days ago.
Yeah.
Someone sent me a link to a video they made with their toilet paper
Oh,
challenge.
really? That's cool
Yeah.
because it's been quite a few videos, and I'm really happy that it took off. Because to be honest, I don't know if I said it last time we were live on that. I was a bit afraid that people would think that it's mocking people or something like that. But there will. I think I got only one comment that somebody said that it's not proper. What do you say? It's proper to do it.
Really?
Yeah, only one. All others been
Wow.
really. It's been for quite fun for many because of we need some fun things and to laugh
Yeah.
during these situations, because it is hitting, as you said, that you had to cancel a couple of different what do you call it, jobs, and
Yeah.
so has I. Actually, yesterday I was making my last images for that I have in my calendar. Today was
Oh,
some
wow.
product shots that I did here, but actually on that desk that I have behind, I used that as a small product that I had to photograph. I will
Yeah.
have some lectures online because there's this what do you call it? It was home with Olympus thing that they are doing Olympus worldwide, so they have some online lectures
Oh,
about cameras. So there's some work to do, which is really great.
that is
So
cool.
yeah, it is. I'm really, and I think what I liked about that is that Olympus took quite fast. This big multinational corporation, but they still were able to pull that in a week to
Yeah.
set up the whole
Yeah.
thing, which I think it's good, and because they want to show the cameras online, because people are not going to the camera stores.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true. The few that are left at all
Oh yeah,
aren't
that's
even
true.
open.
That's true. That's another thing. But what about your photography? You do a lot of real estate, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's my primary, like that's how I make money, is off the real estate photography, or architectural photography, some people call it, and it's primarily commercial property, with a splattering of residential here and there. But I like commercial because if anyone's thinking about getting into real estate or architectural photography, I prefer commercial work because the timeline is not as critical, at least here in the United States. I can set up the job if a few days later, wait for the sun to come out, and then I can deliver the pictures usually 2, 3 days later. I mean, I always deliver next day, but I have this flexibility in time. And normally the buildings are empty; they're usually vacant. So I don't have to worry about what time I go, or getting people out of the way and removing clutter. It's a very clean and very stress-free kind of job. Unlike uh, residential type real estate, the agents are pressing you. You need to be there this day, and I need to have the pictures that night. And it's like, because I have to get the listing online with photos within 24, 48 hours of actually getting a contract to list the property. So there's a lot of pressure on the agent and on the photographer as well. And then they have to look good, right? And you don't have any choice about the weather. That's why I do mostly commercial, and it doesn't pay anymore necessarily, but they're easier to do for that reason, and that the lighting is usually very consistent as well. They're not littered with all different kinds of lighting like in a residential property. You go in the kitchen, it's fluorescent. You go in the living room, it's tungsten. You go into the bathroom, it's like LEDs. It's so it's residential is a lot more challenging too. So I always take the path of least resistance when I do anything. I'm just lazy in nature, I guess. But
yeah, that's true. And usually what it is, like what I usually do, I don't have any private clients, almost none. I only do corporate work, and that's exactly the reason, because it's a lot easier to handle the corporations than private. And that's probably the same,
right.
A bit same thing, even though your employer or the one who buys or makes the reservation for you is of course a corporation, but still it's the same different thing. And what gear do you use? You need some really wide angle lenses for that.
Yeah. Well, for the first 2.5 years, I used the EM10 Mark II for my real estate photography, and excuse me, and I used a Panasonic 7 to 14 millimeter f4, and then middle of last year, I decided, the EM10, I dropped it so many times, it just was getting flaky. So I said, okay, the battery door's busted, the battery keeps falling out, I can't take this on a job. So I switched over to the EM1 Mark II, and then I bought a 8 millimeter fisheye lens, and that covers that's really the only two things in terms of gear. And then I bring a kit lens too. Sometimes I do the exterior shots with a kit lens. And then for flashes, I just usually bring one good flash, the Godox 8200. And then I bring the smaller TT350 just in case. But I'd say 9 out of 10 times I rarely break out the smaller flash. Then, of course, I'll have a good sturdy tripod with I use a Benro gearhead, and that's made a lot of difference in me just being able to adjust and get the line straight, and that's it really. And 8 millimeter gives me that wide angle view, and then the post processing, the correction's very simple to get all the lines straight, and then it gives me some wiggle room to crop it different ways, and that's it really. It's very minimal gear. I just take one little bag and the tripod, and I can do just about every job I can do. I mean, there's some exceptions where I'll bring like a what is it? It's a 16-foot pole.
Oh yeah, yes.
And I'll put a little camera on the top so I can get a high angle of the building or property. Yeah. And that's rare too.
Yeah, that's actually a good way of doing it, because I know a lot of real estate photographers, they use drones, but then there are some restrictions where you can fly. So
yeah,
they've been actually going back to really, really high, poles, because then you can get a better shot, and it's not illegal like it is in some places. Or you need permits, and that's gonna take up some time and money to get all those permits.
Yeah. And as much as I drop my cameras, I don't want to throw one 1,000 feet in the air.
That's true. That's true. So when you because it's always people are interested about the gear, but did you see any improvement? Are your photographs better now than you had when you compared when you had the EM10 camera versus the M1 series camera? Is there any difference?
Not really. Mainly because the images I get, I crop them down to 2 megapixels so that the client can deliver them online for their website or whatever. So once they're cropped down, there's no difference. And then since I'm on a tripod, I'm always using a flash, and the lighting is good, and I can use slow shutter speeds if I need to, so I keep the ISOs very low. So when you have optimum lighting conditions, it's virtually impossible to tell the difference between cameras. And that's the other thing about real estate photographers. You have virtually total control over the lighting. So yeah, I didn't really notice any difference. And the IBIS is turned off, right? Because I'm on a tripod.
That's true.
Honestly, any camera could do the job. Even my TG5 probably.
Yeah.
But it's a matter of the lightweight compactness of the Olympus system and lenses. Just being able to go room to room very quickly and not have to carry much gear is makes the job so much easier.
Yeah.
And like I said, the ergonomics with the customizability with the custom timers and the bracketing, my workflow is so much faster as well. And I think that was the main benefit that got me to use the Olympus system. Was it really improved my workflow in the work that I do. Because I could just program custom mode 1 or my set 1 to do 3 bracketed shots, and then I flip it to custom 2, and that's my flash shot, and I'm done, and I move on. Whereas, when I was using a Nikon D750 before, it was very awkward to go from like an ambient light bracketed shot to a flash shot. And I did develop a workflow, but it just got so much easier with Olympus with how customizable it is.
Yeah, that's true. But you said that it's you are all in control of the light, but that also makes it a bit harder because you don't have any excuses. You're kind of in charge of the light. But of course, I like that there is no, exceptions. That the light that I set there is there, and of course, if there's some window light or coming natural light from the windows, because I've done some real estate, mainly. Houses when for the real estate agencies a few times, but it's not something that I do constantly because it's actually the post-processing is sometimes quite hard when you need to make composite images when it's really sunny day. As you said, when you have a residential or private house or private home, you need to go there a certain time, and the light might be totally awful, and you might have
residential is really bad at nighttime.
Yeah.
And then again, I always, if I get a chance, I always ask, which directions does the sun come in?
Yeah, that's.
I don't want those harsh lights on the floor, right? Because those are hard sometimes to get out.
Oh yes. Oh yeah, and that's the first question that I always ask. That which way are the windows, so I know which time of the day I need to go. And then also here in Finland during wintertime, we got like 5 hours of sun if it's up or if there's no clouds, because you don't have a very much time to do if you want some natural light, because during nighttime you cannot do it because the glasses reflect everything that's inside. It's impossible to photograph.
Wow, that would be hard. Yeah, I hate doing them at night. I did one night photo shoot early in my career, and they came out okay, but that was the very last job I ever got from that agent.
Right. Well, sounds bad. But so then,
I mean, if I were to do it over, I'd probably do a much better job. But at the time, I was used to having good light, and I didn't have my powerful flash. I just had the little TT350, and so I didn't have enough lighting at the time or experience. But they really liked my portfolio at the time.
Okay, yeah.
And then I said, okay, I can do your house. And then, I never heard from him again.
Yeah, I remember once that I went to a house, or it was quite nice, big house that I was photographing, and it was actually a friend of mine who was selling the house, and then but the agency was the one that hired me to do those, but they weren't able to sell the house. So 2 months later, the guy asked me again because they could not use the same images because it was the agency that hired me. They had to write for the images, so the house owners couldn't use them at all. So I had to do it again, which was, of course, I could double pay for the same job. But anyways,
it
was kind of funny that of course I can understand about the copyrights and stuff like that. But that was kind of ridiculous in a way. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how it's over there if you have because the copyright laws are a bit different in different countries.
Right. It's strict, and I need to do a little more research on people, because I've had agents lose the listing, particularly in commercial. You can have a property on listing for years, literally, before it sells. And during that time, it might change hands from one agent to another. And they need to pay me, right, from agent to agent for the same image. But sometimes I don't know that the property changed hands because, I'm not paying attention a year later. And then I'll see the listing, and it's like my pictures with that, and that agent didn't pay for them.
Yeah.
And you can't be too mean to them because it's like they're a potential client.
Yeah, that's always the problem. That the biggest problem here is that if it's let's say that it's a big corporation and they might have different branches, and I photograph images for one branch, and then they want to use it, another branch of the same big company wants to use it, and that's always what to do. I don't want to, say no, because then I might lose the whole. But then again, be kind of like had an agreement that you can use them. But that's always a tough call. And I try to be reasonable with that because I don't want to lose any clients, especially now when when there is not too many jobs around.
Exactly.
But what about your kind of like photo walks? You haven't done that many videos on those lately.
Oh,
of course, now I can understand right now, but
yeah, now, well, in the wintertime, it slows down a lot. I just don't like the cold anymore.
Oh, yeah.
That's mainly why. Now that the weather's warmed up, and if we get these restrictions lifted, I think I'll definitely be out there a lot more. But yeah, it slows down a lot in the winter for me.
Yeah, of course.
I've only been doing this like 3 years, but so I didn't start out with photo walks too much, and then when I got into it in the summers, but now I'm realizing in the winters, I don't like the cold.
Yeah, well, I have kind of like the same problem here. But what I liked about those is that it's always really great to hear how other photographers think when they're making the image. I think that the process of thinking that, because when you had the camera like a first person view thing, you were walking and looking around, and then you see something and you start talking that what maybe there is an image or not, and I think you even showed sometimes images that did not come out that good.
Yeah,
I think that's really. I'm not saying that you should always or people should show bad images, but on an instructional video like those are, I think it's in a way important, because when we go out in photo walk, we might take 50 images and 2 or 3 are really the ones that really, and that's probably enough usually.
Right, and that's the main thing, is I like to always show people exactly what I'm seeing, and then share a little bit about what I saw there to get a picture of. And then I always like to show what I got straight out of camera. Because a lot of times you see photos online or you see other channels and they just show you the final image.
That's what
and
I
you
do.
don't know how much work went into that,
That's
right?
True. That's true.
And I'm like, I have nothing against post-processing. I post-process the heck out of a lot of images. But when I'm doing a tutorial or sharing, photography or photo walks, people, I think it helps to have this baseline and say, this is what I started with. This is what I got straight out of camera. And the more that you get what you want in camera, the less you have to do later, So I'd say 90%, maybe more, are just slight tilt and crop. And that's the only processing I have to do. Yeah. So I always felt it was important to show exactly what's in the camera.
That's true. True. That's a really good idea. I really haven't done that much. Sometimes I've shown the screen, but never the actual file, because I always think that it's just a starting point for the final image that I have in my mind. But as I said, we think differently, and that's the beauty of photography. We do different things, and we do differently. But it's also about editing, and it's a big myth that back in the days they didn't do any editing, and that's of course, you're doing slides, that was a straight photograph, but like black and whites, they that was a lot of work in the darkroom. So there's nothing new in that sense. So that's not the real thing.
Yeah, I've seen all those little tools for the dodge and burn, and all those things on the negatives, and
and actually, I had a kind of like a flashback because I just made a video about how to copy slides and negatives, and I have a lot of slides, and I left one of the boxes open, and when I came in the morning to my office, to this room, it smelled like a dark room because the slides were been going okay, they are going bad in a few, they are old Kodachromes from 1982.
Wow, that's hilarious. I never even thought about that. The smell.
I was like, I'm not gonna stay there for the whole day. I had to open the windows and doors because I would have had such a headache if I was sitting here all day with that smell. But it was exactly like in the darkroom, and which I used to do way back. But I never
I did
really
a little
liked
bit
it.
in college, and that was it. There was a big gap from the early 80s to late 2000s where I didn't do any photography.
Okay, yeah. But you did when you were young. You did.
Yeah. I did a lot in high school and college, and I developed my own negatives, both color and black and white, and printed them. And I had my own little lab at home. But yeah, I just recently found a whole bunch of negatives from my college days.
Oh, really?
When I was digging around my mom's house.
Oh, really? You should actually scan those and make a video about those images. It depends on what the subject. If it's a college party, then maybe you don't want to do that. But it depends on what it was.
No, they're innocent. They're innocent. I was a nerd back then, so I didn't have any. I didn't have any racy pictures.
Oh, that's good. Then you might do some video. But and then you've said a lot about in your videos your favorite cameras and on live show. But am I correct that the Pen F is your favorite camera?
Yes. Oh yeah, definitely by far.
Yeah.
And it's for all the reasons I talked about before about doing everything in camera.
Yeah.
I get a lot of satisfaction when I can really get my vision in camera, and the Pen F has the most controls of any camera on the market.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Control color and the art filters, and then they have the individual profiles, and then all of the ergonomics of it itself just make it a joy to use too. And it's a beautiful camera. I just, I love this camera. I keep it with me.
Oh yeah, you have it right there. What's the lens? That's
This is a 35 millimeter CCTV lens.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So, yeah, and it gives a nice swirly kind of background bokeh.
Oh, so you have a adapter for it, or?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, and what I like about CCTV, there's no flange distance. It goes flush against the camera.
Oh, I see.
This is just a giant lens hood on it.
Oh, okay.
Because it has a lot of flare. It's like a $30 lens.
Oh, have you made a video about that lens?
I have.
Oh, you have. I need to check. I haven't seen that. I need to.
Yeah, it's very early video.
Doesn't matter.
So put it on 2x or 4x speed, and then you might be able to watch it.
Yeah, but actually, what's really interesting now that when you're talking about old videos, then it's the same thing with old photographs. That I was digging my old negatives, and actually, the funny thing is that it was a month trip around the States when I was 17 and 18. Those pictures, and I remember having for the whole month maybe 6 rolls of Kodachrome, 36. Picture rolls. That means about, and I have 150 slides, and now I was barely able to have 5 on my video when I scanned them because
really,
yeah, because of course some of them were just like tourist shots and such of friends that I met and stuff like that, but not really many memories. But then I had like a few really that I thought that okay, these are quite good. So in that way, it's actually quite good to go back and see and be a bit embarrassed of the old images. That only means that you've been getting better. There's nothing embarrassing about it. You're just better now, which of course.
Yeah, definitely.
And the same goes with the videos, of course. If you go 2 years back, you say like, oh God, what was I thinking?
Oh, I know. It's just, and sadly, when I look at my old videos and my current videos, it's not a huge difference.
I think there is.
I don't know.
I think there is.
I don't, I don't know. They seem the same. I'm trying to, since I started, live streaming, I feel like I'm much more gregarious in person and able to interact with somebody.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm trying to implement that persona into my videos now. I'm trying to smile more and
Well, you have the same problems that I do because because we hadn't had really time, and now it's not possible to when we used to do together with Maddie, so that he was behind the camera and it's a lot more easier for me when there's somebody behind the camera. And sometimes I actually ask my wife to come just stand behind the camera. I'm talking to you, then I'm more relaxed. Like now, right now I'm smiling and talking with my hands. But when I do videos alone, I'm just talking monotonously.
Oh, I know.
And that's just it's a hard thing because I'm not an actor. So, but maybe we learn in the way like.
And my viewers do comment on your videos sometimes. That you're too serious.
I know. Yeah, because photography is serious, and I'm really thinking. And then of course there is the language thing because I have to really concentrate on the language too because it's not my native language.
Right.
That's also.
And that's what I tell people. I'm like, man, if I had to translate from English to Finnish and try to teach something at the same time, I think my brain would explode. It's like that's not an easy thing to do.
It is quite hard. But actually, I don't think I don't think in Finnish. I because everything a lot that I've learned about photography, I've studied in English anyway. So.
Oh.
So it's
okay. Interesting.
Like I have everything is like my camera menu system is always in English because I really don't even know the words in Finnish sometimes. It's like and Photoshop is totally impossible in Finnish. No idea what the words mean actually.
Wow, that's funny.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. But there's been a lot of questions around. Should we start answering the questions?
Sure.
I know kind of like looking a bit, and somebody was talking about and asking about the 150 to 400 millimeter f4.5 lens from Olympus that has been announced like 3 times, and was saying about that. How does this virus thing affect that? And most likely, I would say that it will. Like it has affected every camera company and their manufacturing, and I think even Canon has closed down 5 factories, and that will of course affect everything.
Yeah.
But I've no. Sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that really none of us have any idea about Olympus's delivery of new products. That is very tight-lipped, and even if we did know, we're under NDA, right? Non-disclosure agreement anyway.
Of course.
We can't say anything.
Yeah.
So I wish I could give you some insight, but even I know even less than Peter and Robin.
Well, we get let's say that we get information about let's say a month ahead, sometimes a bit more, so we might be able to test those. Yeah. But of course, we cannot say what we have and what we do not.
Right. Because it was like about a month before the EM5 Mark III came out. I made 4 or 5 videos about it.
Yeah.
Not a word from you and Robin.
Yeah. No comment. Yeah.
So I said, right away, that's how you know when they're testing the camera and they can't say jack about it.
Of course. Yeah. That's actually kind of like, I should have been commenting, oh, interesting. but
yeah.
But then, of course, it's hard to comment. Yeah. And it was actually Photos Wayne saying that he for Norway and the menus in Photoshop, he has also English because Photoshop makes no sense in Norwegian. That's true. Wow. That's true. It only makes sense in English, to be honest. And let's see.
I had no idea. I never would have thought of that.
Yeah, they actually have the different language versions. There are quite a few different language versions of different softwares too. But of course, like Finnish is a very small language. We're like 5.7 million people. So I think about 5 million are Finns, and then there's 700,000 other nationalities. So,
wow, that is small.
Yeah, it is a small country, and that's actually, going back to the virus, that it's one of the least dense population in the whole Europe. So that's, except of course the southern part, the Helsinki area is quite big couple of million people living around here, and all the rest are in
Yeah.
all over the place, and you know.
God, that sounds awesome. I'm so tired of the congestion and I mean within about I forget the statistics, but it's like within 5 square miles there's a million people here.
Oh.
You know, and New York is double that.
Oh yeah,
It's
Manhattan is packed, so but it's not that bad. But let's see if we have any more questions. People will be talking about telephoto lenses and about bird photography and always somebody's saying that keeping it 100 and 400. But if there are any questions and Rob, as I said, if you spot anything, just go ahead.
Yeah. If I haven't answered a question, or Peter, just ask it again, because it's so hard to scroll back up.
Yeah, and it's actually going quite fast now. And Lars J is asking me if I speak Swedish. Well, my father is a Swedish speaking, and the first language that I learned was Swedish, but I'm not very good in languages, so when I start picking up English, my Swedish kind of like poof. I can understand. If I go to Sweden, I can understand and you know, buy groceries and stuff like that, but I wouldn't talk about photography in Swedish. No.
Wow. Kostov is waiting, and I think we've talked about it before, but you know, the 8-25 f4 from Panasonic, or I'm sorry, from Olympus, that's definitely a lens I'm waiting for personally as well, because that would save me just a little bit of time in post-processing for my real estate work, because it's a rectilinear lens. And then I wouldn't even need to bring a kit lens because it goes all the way out to 25 millimeters, which is usually about what I shoot at when I'm using a kit lens on my pro work. Yeah. So now I can go out with one lens. And f4 doesn't matter because I'm always at f4 or f5.6 anyway. Yeah,
that's true. That's true.
And you know, and then I can use the 8 millimeter for exactly the reason I wanted to do it was to do astrophotography, right? Because it's a wide angle 1.8.
Oh yeah, that is cool. And then there is actually I can put these questions that I just realized that I can put them on the screen to highlight them here.
Okay. Yeah, there's one from Camille.
Yeah.
Do we recommend upgrading the 25 millimeter f1.8 kit lens from the kit lens? And, you know, my answer is always, you know, before you buy a prime, you know, you need to have a very specific reason why you're buying it, because the only thing it really gives you is more light, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe a little depth of field. But, you know, always have a very specific purpose for it, because your kit lens covers a pretty wide range already. So I wouldn't, you know, if I was going to upgrade the kit lens, I'd probably recommend the 12-45 f4. Just as a straight upgrade, versus buying a 25 millimeter prime. If you have a very specific intent, like you want to do street photography and you need to be in low light all the time, then that makes sense. You know, if you're thinking about portrait work, you know, where you can stay relatively close to the subject as one of your tools in your bag, that makes sense. You know, just always think about a very specific reason why you're buying a prime, because it's a single purpose lens for the most part, right? Because it's one focal length.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's what I always tell people. Peter, what would you say?
I would say mainly about the same, and I think it is all about if you need the faster lens. I think that's what it is. And I usually recommend, if you have, let's say you have a kit lens, it doesn't matter which kit lens it is, the next lens, if you want to buy something, is most likely a fast prime, and the focal length depends on what you are shooting. If you need a wider shot, and one good thing is that go back to your images and see what focal lengths you have used the most, or is there anything that you have not been able to do because of the focal length that you don't have. That's another way of doing it. But otherwise,
right.
is only thing actually is the fast aperture and you know, getting faster shutter speed because of that in low light and stuff like that. I think that's the main reason.
Right. Yeah. And you know, if you need that faster shutter speed or lower ISO at that particular focal length, yeah, definitely it's worth every penny. But a lot of times you don't. It's just A lot of times when I started, I would buy lenses because I'd see online that this is the sharpest lens from in this lineup.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, I gotta have that lens. I didn't care about the focal length. I was like, I want the sharpest image, and then I'll just compose whatever I can with it. But now I got a 75 millimeter f1.8, which is very highly regarded Olympus lens. I never use it.
Yeah.
Because I bought that early on because
yeah.
I read that it was the sharpest lens
yeah.
ever.
Yeah, yeah. Then there is a question that was before, is that it's Peter Arkdale is asking about the switching off the 300 millimeter lens, or the IS switch on the lens, and what it actually does. If you switch it off, it will turn off the IBIS also, and so I would suggest to having it on all the time. And there is a switch, like there's a switch on the 12 to 100 millimeter f4 also, and that's something that I think Olympus should think about, that you could turn the lens IS off and use only the IBIS if you wanted to. But that's not the case.
Okay. Yeah, those are not lenses I own, and it's definitely a mental block for me, image stabilization. I'll just follow the standard, guidelines, turn it off when you're on a tripod or you're panning, and then turn it on almost for everything else.
Yeah, that's true. That's the best way to do it. Let's see if there are some more questions here.
Yeah, I saw one from Skip.
All right.
Saunders. Skip Saunders asking about custom modes. Do I use them, and what is the difference between assign and set when in custom menus? Oh, that's a good question. I mean, I do use the custom modes a lot. For my pro work, like I said, I set one custom mode for bracketing. And then I set another custom mode for my flash shot, because the settings are very different doing ambient light versus flash in my professional work. And it makes it very easy to switch between the two. On my photo walks, I typically assign one to just a normal natural shot, single point autofocus. I'll set another one for if I see some action, I can quickly flip to it and catch a flight of birds or something. So I have different focus points set. Maybe I'll have a 5 grid or 9 grid point instead of a single point, and I'll have in continuous autofocus. So I switch custom setting 2 to like a birds in flight type setting, and then setting 3 will be maybe some sort of bracketing of art filters. And I'm trying to narrow it down to maybe just 1 or 2 art filters to bracket instead of, I used to bracket several at a time. So I use them quite often, and I always spend about 15 to 20 minutes before I go out setting the camera up and all the custom modes I need to do. So I'm very used to doing a full reset, then going back in and setting everything quickly so that I don't have any surprises when I'm in the field. But let me see, the difference between assign and set. I never really paid attention. Which camera are you talking about specifically?
Doing assign. The thing is that let's see what I have the. Let's see if I can get this camera on here, and let's see. I can have the. Yeah, I can have the camera on the screen. So
okay, I see what he's talking about.
Yeah, if
Go
you're
ahead.
talking about okay, now that the HDMI is occupied on the camera, it's so I cannot really show how it is, but you figured probably out what it was, right?
Yeah, basically, assign is like a verb in the sentence. It's more of a linguistics thing than it is than there is a difference. So you're assigning a custom mode to a specific place in the camera, whether it's on the mode dial or to a function button. And then when you say set, that means that function button or mode dial is set to the settings that you just created. So assigning and setting are really action verbs in this case. So you're going to assign a custom mode to a function button, but the function may or may not be set. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, that sounded good. And then there is actually a one question about Foxbat Gabro about have you ever tested all 4 third lenses on Micro Four sensor? Well, actually, the sensor is the same. I think it's the same size, but the only difference is that the mount is a bit different. But that's if I'm correct. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it is. Have you, Rob, ever tested the 4 third
No,
lenses?
I've never done it. I haven't found a need to do it, you know. If I bought 4/3 lenses, I'd probably just spend another $100 and get an E510 or something with it.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true. I haven't either tested those lenses. I've tried to get hold of them. Either you cannot get them, or if when you can, they're quite expensive because there are some really, really good lenses, and that's why. And Olympus Finland doesn't have them anymore. They, when they switched to Micro Four Thirds, everything went back to Germany, so they don't have any, and I don't think they have them in Hamburg, where the European headquarters is. So
yeah, I've seen 1 or 2 very expensive ones, but a lot of them they're just giving away. Like I can get.
Yeah, maybe I should take another look and see if I can find some, because there are some really good lenses. And then there is one from Sam Thompson is about using prime lenses. And another reason I like prime is that it makes me think more of perspective rather than framing by zoom. And that's a good point to have primes, that you really need to think more. You can limit yourself to certain angle of view, and you because zooms can make you lazy a bit. You need to use kind of like your feet as a zoom. Of course, it's not exactly the same thing, but still you could kind of like walk and crop. And what's really remarkable, that using a one lens for a while, you start seeing the world in the eye of that lens quite fast, and that can actually make your photography better when you kind of restrict yourself to making it a bit harder. And that's I think that's a good point, Sam Thompson there.
Yes, I would agree with that. Yeah. Definitely framing, and then you find you like certain focal lengths more than others after a while. And then you find, at least for me, I find I like all of them for different reasons, except the 75.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
That's true. Well, let's hide that comment. And there is, let's pick one from Robin Wong. He says that Olympus 45mm f1.8 is my most used lens for street for a long time and never missed a focus. Yeah, it's a good lens, but I think for street that is a bit too tight for me, even though I like more or less a 25mm for street. I know some like 17mm. But that's an interesting thing, and on the 15th of April, Robin will be on my live stream as a guest, and we will talk about this, Robin, some more.
Okay, yeah, I think, I always bring the 45 with me on my street walks, and I rarely bring it out. I end up just sticking with the 17 for the same logic of, shooting with just one focal length. You kind of get into a groove with that, and it's weird to switch up. But when I looked at Robin's street photography, he is doing a lot of portraits and he's very focused on the subject in his street photography, and not too much the environment all the time. So I think a 45 works well for that, right? If you can get up closer to people and take advantage of that, shallow depth of field and really do the subject isolation. But for me, it's just too tight because I don't like to get that close to people. If I'm going to use a 45, yeah, it's a little bit telly, right? You would think you can get further away. But when you get further away, you don't capture the environment, and then you're not close enough to the subject, and then you have this picture that just doesn't, at least for me, I've never been able to frame a 45 properly unless I'm actually using it like as a portrait. So that's why I like the 17, because then I can just use all the geometry in the scene and then capture the environment. But 45 works, I think, for the style that I've seen Robin do in his videos.
Sorry, folks, I'm messing up a bit with the comments. There are some different comments on different scenes here, but now we had the Robin's comment, and then there was something that was about the picture mode. This is an interesting question about what is the default picture mode you use for travel photography, which is the best recommended for highest dynamic range. Also, any suggestion to use at night? Do you have any ideas about that?
Yeah. Really, if you want to always capture, and if we're talking about JPEGs, if you always want to capture the most dynamic range, I'd recommend probably using the muted color profile along with the gradation set to auto, and that'll maximize, I think, the dynamic range in the sense that the camera will bake into the JPEG. It'll bring the shadows up a little bit, bring the highlights in a little bit, and then it won't oversaturate areas where there's a lot of strong contrast. So you get a very balanced picture that will be very easy to easier to post-process and save a lot of that information. If you're talking about your raw image, then you really don't have any control. The raw image is going to capture what it sees, and then so you have to use your eye to see where the highlights are, the shadows are. You have to use your own eye, really, at that point, with a raw file, because it's not going to capture more or less no matter what settings you put in the camera. But yeah, if you want the maximum, but if you just want a very natural picture, Olympus did a good job with the default settings, natural color profile, normal gradation, and it'll give you a very pleasing image, I think, just straight out of camera default settings. But to maximize a JPEG, then yeah, I would say maybe muted. What do you think, Peter?
Yeah, I agree with the muted, and as you said, the gradation to have it on auto, then that actually will make a nicer curve. And what I like about Olympus JPEGs, that those are really good out of the camera, because it has a very good JPEG engine, and then of course raw images are then up how you want to kind of like edit them. So that's all up to you in a way. But I think the Olympus JPEG is fine. Of course, I know some might think it's a bit too saturated, but then if you use muted, then you can kind of like adjust it yourself in post just a bit, and I think that's the best way. Let's see if there's any other.
Yeah, because I'm sorry. One more thing is because a lot of people use their JPEGs and they import them into something they want to share on Instagram, and Instagram has all these additional filters you can apply.
Yes.
So if you give Instagram a nice muted profile with an auto gradation where the highlights and shadows are brought in, those filters will work a little better with that kind of JPEG. But if you're working with RAW, you post-process how you like. The camera's not going to capture more or less dynamic range.
Yeah, that's a good point about posting the images in Instagram and using filters. That's a really good point. I've never really actually thought about that because I only do raw images, but that's a good point. And that could be also a good video for your channel, just to how to make your images best for Instagram with Olympus camera.
If I ever figure out how to use the app, the cameras to get the photos into my phone.
That's true. Let's see if there are any more questions. Did you spot any interesting?
Yeah, I see one here. Any way to stop the camera from setting itself back to see default on sleep? I mean, for example, if you have ISO at 400 on your custom mode, change it while shooting, it will reset back to 400.
Yeah, it does. But there is actually let's see if I can bring the where do I have it? Let's see over here. Let's see, I can bring in the menu from the camera, because there is a way in the EM1 Mark III that you can set the camera so that if you change, let's say, from 400 to 200, it will automatically assign it to that custom mode. Which you're using.
I think that's the only camera.
Yeah, that's the only camera. I just actually found out when I was playing around. I just got one because of the lectures with the Home with Olympus thing that I'm hosting on Monday here in Finland. It's going to be in Finnish, so that I realized that. But all the other cameras, it always will pick up all the settings that you have restored. And sometimes I know that that's a bit of a pain when if you change, for example, the ISO, and it will go back to whatever it is. And I know sometimes it is a bad thing.
Yeah, every camera's a little bit different, because there might be a workaround where, let's say you assign a custom mode to a function button, but you still have your mode dial on aperture priority. So you hit the function button, it brings up all your custom settings. The camera goes back to sleep, but I think when it wakes back up, it's going to wake back up in aperture priority, not necessarily the custom mode. So whatever settings you had will be wherever you left off. But it's not something I practice, so I can't tell you firsthand.
Yeah, it is. But sometimes it is a bit strange with the custom modes, and usually, like Rob was saying about his custom modes, what he said, and I usually set also before I go out and shoot to maybe different ISOs, maybe sometimes high sequential. It depends, and pro capture maybe to 1. It depends what I'm shooting, but I do that every time before I go. I check what I have in my custom modes, because the problem is that I'm making videos and I'm changing the settings, and and all of a sudden it can be anything sometimes. That's why I need to check every time when I go out.
Yeah, and a lot of times I will. You can toggle the custom mode on and off. I think that's something I'll have to. One of us have to do a video on that kind of workflow to work around the kind of problem he's having into, because the fact that the M1 Mark III now has this feature means that they were getting enough feedback from their users that this is an issue.
It is.
So we may, if there's a workaround possible, I'll work on that and see what I can come up with.
That sounds like an interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, then Skip says about his question that my question should have been different between assign and save. I hope, did you get your answer that you needed? So was your problem solved? Because maybe we misunderstood his question.
Yeah.
But rephrase it again if there's some troubles. That's why we're here, trying to help you guys.
Yeah. I see one from Kostov. Should Olympus bring out faster zooms like a 1.8 or f2 like Panasonic between 10 and 30 millimeters without IS to keep the size small?
So what do you think about that?
I don't think there's. I don't know how an f1.8 zoom would be small.
Yeah, that's
to be honest.
That is not a small. That would be a huge lens.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Panasonic 12 to 35 f2.8 is about as small as you're going to get for something that fast, and that's already like 400 and some grams at least, right?
That's true. That's true.
If you want to.
And then I would say that a 10 to 30 millimeter lens doesn't really need image stabilization in the lens. I don't think I would, because you have a very good stabilizer in the body, the IBIS. So I don't think you need. The longer lens is a different thing, but those shorter lenses, I don't think they really. It's not really needed.
Because I mean, the 12 to 40, the 12 to 45 just came out, and that's. That's reasonably small, but it's an f4.
It is.
Just imagine if they make that an f1.8. That would be.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the 2.8. It's already 100 grams more than the f4.
Oh, yes.
So if you go from 2.8 to f2 or 1.8, I think a zoom would be, maybe I'm not thinking of a lens that might be out there, but I can't think of any lenses with a zoom range like that's small.
That's true. That's true, because it's the law of the light, of the physics. You just cannot make it with the lenses that we make nowadays. Of course, if we get some kind of like floating lenses in the future that can be small, then it's a totally different thing.
Oh, okay. Skip has elaborated a little bit on his question. If you could tell me which camera you have, I'll use my Pan F as an example. But he says there's 4. When you're in the reset menu, okay, now he's talking about the reset menu. I see where he's going now.
All right, good.
Let me go to that menu and just look at it. There is 4 actions possible. Reset, which goes factory default, and then 3 choices for the custom modes. I only see 2. Set. I don't see the assign, save, and recall. I understand. You're just basically, instead of, like, if you assign a function of some custom modes to a function button, you can hit the function button. But if you didn't assign it to a function button, you can just recall it when you go into the menu. So you can save everything to custom setting to, and then recall it from the menu without having to assign it to something or set it to something, I should say.
Yeah, that's the way it is, I think.
Yeah, so assigning a custom menu or assigning a custom mode is assigning settings to a button, but that button isn't assigned until it's set. So that's, I don't know if I explained that well enough. So you can assign things to a button, but the button is not assigned until you set it.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Yeah. Now, now I get it. Yeah, because that's, as you said, it's a bit semantic, and that's, of course, for me a bit hard to understand, so really but I think that is and then there is this a question, if I bring it up here, is that Riccardo Morbidini is asking if EM5 Mark II is still a good camera in 2020. What are your thoughts on that, Rob?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that camera, I've used it in my last couple of videos when I was doing the toilet paper challenge, and then I have another video coming out tomorrow on product photography, and I use that camera, and it's fabulous. Very solid metal build. Very few cameras you're going to find in that price range that have that kind of build quality with weather sealing and all of the features that it has, like the high-res shot mode, the focus stacking, and all of the bracketing features and everything that Olympus has.
Yeah.
With the 5-axis image stabilization, it has really the best image stabilization, except for the newest EM5 and EM1, yes. Right? Of all the Olympus cameras, it's better than the EM10, better than the the Pen F is the same as the EM5, but it's better than all of the other cameras, all the Pen PLs.
Yeah.
It's an excellent camera. The build quality, and how compact it is. So it's definitely, and it has the high-res shot mode, which is awesome. It's not handheld, but on a tripod, it's wonderful.
It is. It's very good. It's very good.
So it's really, and I've tested the high-res shot mode against the high-res shot mode on the EM1 Mark III, and it's the same. Trust me, it's the same. Yeah. The only area that it lacks, and the other thing is the video mode, right? It has a built-in mic jack. It has a grip where you can add extra batteries. It also does tethering that the new EM5 Mark III doesn't do.
Which is a strange thing, which I don't know.
Yeah, it's a little odd.
It is.
Right?
It's totally odd.
It also has 4 custom settings that you can assign to any button, which the new EM5 Mark III does not.
Yes. And
it has very, very good video mode, right? And selections there up to 50 megabits or 80 megabits IP all-eye compression. So on the video side, it's very strong too.
It is, yeah.
And like I said, the only area that it's a little bit weak compared to the newer models is in the continuous autofocusing and tracking.
Yeah, that's. I would say that is the biggest difference in everyday shooting, and still yet not all of us need the continuous autofocus anyway.
Right.
So.
And if you do single point, single point in continuous autofocus, and you get good at, and really with any kind of sports action photography, it doesn't matter what the camera is. About 80% of getting a good action shot is the photographer.
Oh yeah, it is.
But that said, even the tracking, in my opinion, still sucks on all the new cameras anyway. So you're not gaining tracking with an EM1 Mark III so much, in my opinion. Uh, so I'm not, but so you're not gaining anything by another camera. There's very little gain with any of the newer cameras over the EM5 Mark II, even in this day.
That's true. That's true.
And I've seen them as low as $600 with the 14-to-150 kit lens, and that just boggles my mind.
Oh yes, it is. And then there is one question about the image stabilizer. That should it be turned off when it's using high res? It's actually it's off by default because it actually the high res shot uses the IBIS for moving the sensor, so you don't have any stabilization when you use the high res shot.
Right, except for handheld high res.
Yeah, except for handheld. Yeah, that's true, because then it's actually using your hands movement, which is actually quite clever way of doing that.
Yeah,
that's I think the engineer who came up with that is a genius, I think. When you come up with something like that.
Yeah, it is. It's amazing what they think about and the technology behind being able to sense. And image stabilization is designed to mitigate the human body's natural shake.
Yeah.
Right. Every human body has a certain frequency that we tremor.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
You know, some of us more than others when as we age.
Yeah, I don't know.
But there's a frequency, right?
Yeah,
for that.
There is.
And that's how the SEPA ratings, they can say it's 5 stops, 6 stops, 7 stops, because who sets that standard, right? Yeah. Why don't you just say, I got 20 stops of stabilization?
Yeah.
You can't do that because it has to be based on something.
That's true. That's true.
But anyhow, yeah, like I said, I'm trying to learn image stabilization, and we'll talk about that some other day. But
yeah, that is. But yes, it's off when you use the tripod and high res shot.
Yes.
And let's see what it says. Then Lero Shavinsky said, I would buy EM1 Mark II instead. He's probably answering about the EM5 Mark II.
Yeah,
what are your thoughts on this? Which one would you get if you
if I was a professional? Yeah, if you're doing professional work, the EM1 Mark II is definitely the better camera. With the dual card slots alone, would be the single biggest reason to get it for that redundancy. And if you plan on using larger lenses all the time, like the Pro Glass, the EM1 Mark II makes sense because of the built-in grip. You don't have to buy a separate grip for it. Because once you start buying grips and things for the EM5, you're up to an EM1 Mark II size and weight and with less features. So I think, and then the continuous autofocusing for sports action photography definitely is much stronger on the EM1 Mark II. So if you're doing sports action and you're using Pro Glass, that it makes a lot of sense. And I did a whole video comparing the EM10, I think, versus the EM1 Mark II. I don't know. I have a video where I talked about all the things, and it seemed like a no-brainer that to get the EM1 Mark II. But the big disadvantage to it is the size and weight.
Yeah.
It's still a very compact camera, but I never take that camera out for photography. It sits here in my studio as a webcam. It's like a very expensive webcam.
Yeah, that's true. But
the camera I'll take out is like my EM5 Mark III because it's small and lightweight.
Yeah, actually, what I like to take out is either the M5 Mark II or Mark III. I like the 5 series cameras for my everyday shooting. I don't know, there is no kind of like a rational reason why, but I just like it.
Yeah.
And then there is one question: have you, Rob, used the Olympus Workspace? Have you used that?
Oh, yeah.
So what are your thoughts? Are Olympus Workspace good enough? I assume that Justin means the editing software.
Yeah, I think I actually use Workspace for all of my personal work. I can't use it for pro work, but for all of my street photos and just casual photos, that's what I use because I do very minimal post-processing. Now I have compared. So if you just want to just do some processing, punch some colors up, do some cropping, maybe play with some of the art filters, tweak some tints. I think it's a very good tool for doing very broad stroke type editing, and that to me, it's excellent at doing, and it's a really good learning tool for you to learn how to use your camera as well, because a lot of the features that you see in Workspace are in your camera. So I think what Olympus did from a development standpoint is say, we've already programmed all this stuff in the camera. All we have to do is port it over to a computer. And I think that's what they did. And then they added a few extra things to it.
Yep.
But when I compared it to, say, Lightroom, for doing more heavy lifting, like pulling the shadows out of a raw file, Workspace is just not built for that. Yeah. It will lift the shadows a little bit, but not enough. Not without messing up the rest of the picture. So Lightroom gives you a lot more granularity and precision in working with an image that you can't do in Workspace, with masking and brushing and all of the features that Lightroom has. But I think as a beginning photographer, it's an excellent tool to help you get to fix the images that maybe you just got a little bit wrong when you were out taking the picture. And then when you get it wrong, you need to look at the image and say, what did I do wrong about this image, and how can I get this right next time in camera? Because everything in Workspace, or most of the things in Workspace, are already in your camera. So I think it's a great learning tool as well. But I think, I use Workspace for all my personal stuff, no problem at all. And Lightroom, I only use it for my pro work because I have to do a lot of image blending. Yeah. Between flash and ambient light, etc. So
then you need something else. But I have a few words about the Workspace. It's very good for global adjustments where you adjust the whole image. But if you need to adjust part of the images, then you need something else because it doesn't have at all actually local adjustment tools.
Right.
And that's maybe the biggest reason. And there's one small little thing about Workspace. It's a bit slow, at least for me. I want things going faster, so it's a bit slow. But it's a good software to, if you're new to image editing, I would definitely, and you had an Olympus camera, I would definitely start with that.
Yeah, it'll give you a big head start to when you do want to move on to a paid software. You'll know what to look for.
Yeah.
And how to compare.
Exactly.
Definitely.
Then there is one that I really, because Robin is also on the line, I want to send this, that Dave Nelson says that, Robin 1, I hope you, Rob, and Peter realize what an impact you have on we people who want to get better at photography. And I have to say to Dave Nelson, first of all, thank you very much. And then I have to say that very wise man are you, or you are, or how would Yoda say it? Very wise man you are, or how I don't know. But thank you very much. Thank you very much. It means a lot, because that's exactly what we want to do. And now I think it's a good thing to say that we have a group called Micro Four Third YouTubers, that we have our so-called secret society in Facebook, where we plan on doing videos. And during this week, we will have the Micro Four Third two YouTubers have made some product photography videos, which will be published in, I think Maddie Sulanto is doing his on tomorrow. I will be posting it on Friday, and Robin, I think, on Friday, and then Jimmy on Sunday with Red 35. And I think Emily from Micro Four Nerds has landed a really interesting job, so she might not have time to do that video. But keep on watching our channels, and we will.
Yeah, mine is tomorrow.
Oh, yours is tomorrow. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, tomorrow 9 a.m. It's already finished. I'm
what
just
was your kind of like the subject? What products did you choose, or your point of view on that video?
Well, my most favorite thing in the world will be my product.
Oh, okay.
It's my Olympus Pen F.
Oh, right, cool.
And just a heads up to everybody that's here in the stream, because you guys are here. I'm going to be doing sort of a DIY product photography shot that you can. It's sort of in line with the stuck at home photography, and so you don't have to go out and buy anything. If you have your camera and a flash, you can put together things. And I made a pizza box, light box out of pizza boxes.
That sounds interesting, because I love these do-it-yourself things, and because that's what photography is all about. Like yesterday I was doing some products that are launched later in the April, and I used cardboards, and I actually had a little box where I put a hole in the front and light underneath, because then I could get light coming through the stuff. It was actually shining the thing, and that was cardboards and all that kinds of stuff, and all kinds of strange arrangements to set up the lights and everything. So it's sometimes just should do a time lapse on those things when I in this small work office on my desk behind where I made those images. But unfortunately, awesome. I didn't do that. Maybe I could. I still have the stuff. Maybe I could do it again and try to do a time lapse and see how actually not so glamorous the whole thing is.
Right. And I have a video on time lapse if you need to learn how to do that, Peter. So.
Oh, I need to. Yeah, maybe I will. Maybe I will watch that. But let's see. Do we have any more questions here? It's okay. Time is flying, but no problem. No problem.
Wow. Okay.
Let's see. Oh, Play-Doh saying that secret society sounds sinister, though. No, it's not. It's just, so I don't think somebody said it when we made the group and added people there, or asked people to be there. So they said, "Oh, right. This is a secret society," because it's a private group that nobody can find. That's why it's a secret society.
Yeah, and it's something that Peter started with the idea of how can we get together as creators to help you the best, right? And coordinate our content a little bit more, so that you can see the different perspectives. And I thought it was a great idea.
Yeah, that's actually the whole idea is that, like we said before in this live stream, that we all have a different approach and different perspective. We think a bit differently about photography, but still we all have, except maybe me, good ideas about photography and how to do things. And that's why it's a really good thing to have, same kind of content at the same time. So that people can kind of like see different things, and we all have different. You have some shiny object, a camera. I will have some coffee mugs, and I don't know what Robin. I think Robin had something. What did you have, Robin? You're still here. What was your video about? Let's see. Did I miss any question? I'm scrolling back a bit here.
Yeah, I see one from. Wiki, what's the deepest reason that you like Olympus? For me, Olympus feels most sympathetic to use, making photography lighter than other cameras of the competition.
I can find it. I can highlight the question if I can find it. Is it far way back?
Yeah, 3:53 p.m. From Wiki.
Oh, let's see if I can.
I don't know. I turn the time code on. It makes it easier to find.
Yeah, but I actually have on this streaming software where I can pick those questions. So
okay.
Sorry, Vicky, I can't find your question, but
okay.
That's an interesting questions. And for me, it was when I switched 2014. It was the features, and then of course I was so what else? How would I say that? Interested in the mirrorless world, because I think that's the future. That was the thing back in 2014 when everybody was using DSLRs, and I think mirrorless camera is just, we don't need the mirror in the camera anymore. And then it was the size, because I'm not getting any younger, so I could get a smaller camera, and I don't need to show off to anybody with a big camera. Like maybe 20, 30 years ago, it was a thing that you had a big camera. You were like a big guy with a big camera, but I don't need to do that anymore. So, and I've liked it because it's very easy and handy, and all those features like live comp, and now you have in the newest one, you have the Starry Sky AF and all those, and live comp, for example, been a very big thing for me. I've been using big product shots with that, and this what do you call it? attractors. Well, is that a tractor? Yeah. Is that a yeah?
I get it.
Yeah, those big machines, and line painted those, and it's really efficient way of doing it. And I think it's a good really good system.
Yeah, and I think for me, when I bought the EM10 Mark II, I was just looking for a smaller camera, like just to carry around part-time. My D750 was my main camera, but I didn't want to lug that around everywhere. So I just wanted a smaller camera, so I didn't have any deep reason at the time when I bought it. But over time, I really fell in love with the system. And it didn't take long at all, like maybe 30 to 60 days. That Nikon has been sitting on the shelf forever. And what drew me in was a lot of the same things Peter's talking about is the size and weight kind of drew me in just because I wanted a tiny camera. Because honestly, and I said this in my last stream, I was looking at a GX85 back then. And I was like, they didn't have it on the shelf. So I said, well, let me see that EM10. I just want something to put in my pocket when I go out hiking. And I just grabbed the EM10. But then I never thought at the time it would replace my D750. And
that
within
happens.
30 to 60 days, I fell in love with it for all the reasons Peter just talked about, all of the features and, deep diving into the live composite features, the bracketing and everything it could do. And then the image quality ultimately was virtually the same for the kind of photography I was doing. So that's why I love it so much now, is because of just, Peter was already there. He was looking for that, but I wasn't even looking for any of that. I was just looking for a pocket camera. But that's the deep reason is now because of just the customizability and the features that they put into the camera.
Yeah, that's also a good point about the customizability, because then you can actually customize it to your likings. You can set the buttons the way you want to set them. And that's also a big thing, because the usability is also one of the most important things in a camera. If it's easy and fun to use, your pictures are better, most likely. If you don't have to struggle with of course, sometimes with the menu system, there are bits to struggle. But that's why we make videos, to teach you about that. Actually, I did find the Vicky's comment, so I was able to put it on the screen, which was nice.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah. It was way back. And actually, when you said the time code, I would have totally different time codes, because it's 11:23 p.m. here in Finland.
Oh.
So
sorry.
Yeah, no problem. Well, actually
that.
It's 23:23 right now, to be exact, because we use the 24 system.
Okay, and Skip has come back with, he says the difference between a sign and save. So we're still missing his ultimate
we have to
question.
get back. We need to get back to him with this. I think he's talking about the M1 Mark III, because the custom menu or the custom mode menu is a bit different from the others. And to be honest, I haven't really looked into it that much. But
maybe in the comments section after the show, one of us can leave what it is.
Yeah, we need to check that out.
Yeah, so we're not ignoring you, Skip. It just
no, it's just something that we need to figure out.
Yeah.
And let's see what we have here. Are there any other questions? And there is also about Lorenz Shividersky says that Olympus does the retro look well, classic, stylish, and that is always something that I always so puzzled about the retro style. I personally like it a lot, but isn't it funny that we want all these features, new gimmicks, new features, everything in the camera, but then we want it to look old? That is kind of strange, because if someone would make a kind of like a space age looking camera, I bet nobody would buy it. Even though it was exactly the same features, the same image quality, everything was the same, except it looked like a space shuttle or something. Nobody would buy it, which is I don't know why. I'm the same. I like, retro looking cameras.
Right.
I'm not different from others. I'm not saying that, but it's still kind of strange that
well, if you think back to the early 2000s, a lot of the bridge cameras were very fancy looking, right? Very spacey looking.
Yeah, and then there's also Olympus has made some these concept cameras which are totally crazy. There are like the Echo Echo, I think it was, and then there was this in 2000 they made some, which name I don't remember, but there was actually I made a video about those strange cameras when Olympus turned 100 years old. You can find it on
I
my channel,
remember.
and
You
there
turned me on
are
to
some
that
of those.
Ferrari.
It's about 100 facts about Olympus from the way very early days to present day.
Yeah,
You know,
it's an excellent video. If you guys haven't seen that, you should watch that from Peter, 100-year anniversary for Olympus. He went through a lot of great cameras.
Yeah,
and he turned me on to the Ferrari Olympus camera, which
oh yeah,
I still want to get.
yeah, I got it used. I just had to get it. But watch that video if you want to see that. It actually makes the same sound as Ferraris from 2003 or 4, I think it was. Yeah, Lauren says the Sigma did the space age look camera. No one bought it exactly. Yeah, I don't know. It's just something that people don't do when they look in cameras. They want retro style cameras because all the manufacturers are making quite retro. I think Fuji and Olympus are making the most retro looking cameras right now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think
let's see if
Peter Blackthorn.
You mean this
at 25 p.m. He says, do you think Olympus will ever put weather sealing in any of their smaller, lighter lenses like the 918 or the 75-300 or the 14-150? I mean, they've started with the 12-45 f4. That's kind of
yeah, that's true. And I think the 14-150 and 12-200 are made for travel lenses, and that's why they probably wanted to have the weather sealing on those. And actually, the 12-45 millimeter replaced the 12-50 millimeter lens, which was also, if I remember correctly, it was weather sealed. If I'm not,
yes,
it was an electronic zoom lens, and it was actually a pretty good lens. And if you guys find it as a used lens, that's a very capable lens still. It's an electronic zoom, which I personally don't like that much, but it's a good lens. It's a good lens, and it's weather sealed.
Yeah, so people swear by it. Yeah. I just thought it was kind of a little bit too long for what it did. 12-50, and then have a lens like a Coke can just seemed like a bit much to me.
Yeah,
but I guess there's a lot of
funny looking lens, but it's not a bad lens. And if you do video, then it's actually quite good with the electronic zoom. You can get nice really zooms because it's steady nice zooms if you want to do that.
Michael Mercer says, will Ollie release a new Pen F, and will it have the most of the features of the M1 Mark III? So the only word of encouragement that I got, because when the Olympus came out, I read an interview by somebody at Olympus that said there's no Model 2 plan. We just wanted to make one nice camera. But I did see an article recently, like this morning, as a matter of fact,
really?
that they interviewed Olympus again. And the guy asked him, about the Pen F2. Is there an upcoming model? And the guy said, that camera sells really well with certain photographers, And then the guy said, well, is there any plans for another one? And he says, well, I can't comment on that.
Oh, that's
and
usually.
He just smiled.
That's usually if they say that they cannot comment, it usually means that there might be that they have, because I thought that they've kind of killed the line. That's what I've heard. But maybe
when they canceled the current model, they said it's over.
Yeah, that's my impression of the thing. But to be honest, I would love to see the Pen F Mark II with the bit better AF and all the other features that it has, and maybe something extra. That would be a cool camera, because that's a funny thing that I've never had the Pen F. I've tried it when it was brand new. It's one of my first videos that I made in English, and it's not a very good video, but. I was in Tallinn actually testing it and in Estonia, and it was. But I never really, needed it. So I never really got it because I tried, even though I have quite a few cameras, but I still don't want to buy it.
Yeah, let me ask you this, Peter.
Yes.
If the Pen F had a mic jack in it, would that make any difference?
No.
Okay.
I don't think it would.
If it had a mic jack in it, I probably wouldn't have bought anything else. For me,
because
it meets. I love it as it is.
biggest thing that I like about it is that the viewfinder is in the corner, because then you can actually see what you're photographing. The camera isn't blocking your view. That's the biggest reason. That's why I really like it, and would probably buy it for casual shooting, for street photography, and every day, just to have it in my bag and grab it when there's something to photograph.
Right. Boss has a good question, I think, that you can answer, because you've done this before. What do you think is the best filter system that would also fit wide-angle lenses?
Oh, okay, where is the question? Maybe I can answer it.
At 29 minutes.
Okay, about filter system. It depends on what filters you mean. If you mean neutral density or just any filters, then I have, I don't know the brand what I have for the 7 to 14 millimeter lens, but all the bigger brands that make filters, and usually the more it costs, the better it is. That's a bad thing about, or sad thing about filters. But it depends on what filters you need. Usually, the only filters that I need are different kind of neutral density filters. I have the ones that I graduated, and then I have the variable ND filters.
Yeah, because I remember you were talking about in one of your videos about a mounting system where you put the square filters in.
Just a minute. Let me grab it. It's behind me there.
Yeah, I think that's why I thought this would be a good question for Peter. And I see a lot of Pen F comments here that. Yeah, I would buy it right now too. Let me tell you.
All right, here we go. It's one of these. It's actually a Haida, is the brand. This one is for 7 to 14 millimeter. It's a huge.
Yeah,
it's a huge.
And that'll fit other lenses too, though, right?
No, this doesn't. It's too big for the other lens. Of course, you could get these rings, which makes it bigger.
Yeah, some step rings.
Yeah,
right.
Step rings, because this one doesn't have the adapter for the 7 to 14 right there in that back. But
I mean, if you want something simple, I really like the K&F variable ND filter. They have one that's about $50. Don't buy the $20 ones.
But
they have like a $50 one that is really good. If you just want, if you're talking about one kind of filter. Variable NDs and NDs, you pay don't buy the cheapest versions of those kinds of things, because you'll get color casting and they can take away a little sharpness from the image. You get a double image sometimes, like you're looking through beer goggles.
Oh yeah. Yes.
So because I've bought all the cheap ones, and then you end up getting a plastic lens or
that's
something weird.
That's true. And yes, Steve Knight is saying that used the Nisi V6 system. Thanks, Steve, for the tip. That sounds good. Nisi is a good brand in filters too, so that sounds good. I'm not familiar with. Maybe I've seen that system, but right now I don't really recall what that system actually is. But it used to be, the filters used to be a big thing in the film era, because you need to balance the white balance with filters, because the film was fixed to a certain kelvins, usually daylight 5500 or 5600, what it was usually. And if you had tungsten light, you needed filters and to get the colors right. But nowadays it's so much easier that you don't need really the filters.
Yeah, and Lauren has a question about the Pen F speed focusing at 31 minutes.
Yeah.
I can tell you that it is the weakest autofocusing system of all the cameras I own in Olympus. The Pen PL8 is better. The EM10 Mark II is better. EM5s and up are all better. Not by a huge margin. Like, day to day, you may not notice, right? Like, if you go to the store and put them side by side, you may not notice that there's a difference. But over time, as I used it, I've noticed that particularly when the light gets low, it gets really bad. And that snappiness of the focusing, you start to feel, it's just a little bit less than the other cameras.
Oh, I see.
So
yeah.
It's something that you have to own both cameras for a long time to tell the difference. It's like it's kind of like if you're holding one camera that weighs 500 grams and you hold another camera that weighs 510 grams.
Yeah, I know
You
what
may
you
not
mean.
notice the difference, but over time, right,
Yeah,
you'll be like, yeah, this one weighs a little bit more. So it's very subtle.
yeah.
And then, of course, continuous autofocus and tracking just, I mean, I don't know how to say it. It sucks on all the Olympus cameras. Just the object tracking. I think the face detect is really good now in the EM1 Mark III.
Yeah.
But object tracking in and of itself, it's a little
doesn't
weak.
Really work. It doesn't really work that well. That's true.
But it sucks on all the cameras. Like I tried my Nikon, I tried my Fuji X-T30. When I just go out and I try and track my dog, they're horrible, all of them. So anyhow,
yeah. All right, and then there is interesting question from cars. What do you think of customers selecting a body and features like one buys a new car? What do you think? Is that to say, is buying a new camera like buying a new car? Looking at the features.
It is, except that most people buying I guess if you have some experience, you'll know what features and things you want in your next camera or next car.
True.
If you don't have any experience with photography, like this is your first time out buying a real camera, I think that's the worst way to buy a camera, is looking at the features and if it checks all these boxes.
Yeah.
The best way really is, and Matty Salanto has also said this, is really just put the camera in your hands and see how it feels.
Exactly.
And if it feels comfortable and you like how it looks, then get it. Because ultimately, cameras will all give you good image quality, and they all have their own unique features and things in them that you won't find in other cameras.
True.
But I think as a beginner, that's not the way to buy a camera, is looking at if it checks all the boxes for features.
Exactly.
I think. But as an experienced photographer, when I look at a camera, I know exactly what features and things I need, which features work and don't work in my cameras, and I want to find this in the next camera. Then it makes sense, in that sense. So I would tier it towards your level of experience with cameras in general.
Yeah.
If you've been shooting film all your life, just buy something that feels good, like your film camera made you feel,
Exactly. I think the look and feel, which what I mean with the usability and how it fits your hand, how you feel when you take the images, it's personal thing, and all the cameras today, let's say from 5 years back, it's not a problem with the image quality. There might be one camera in every camera brand that's not the best, but still they all can make really good images. It's more about how you feel when you're photographing and then how the camera feels than all about features. But of course, there might be some features that you really need. For example, if you're a bird photographer, you might want the camera to have a very good tracking, or you need making portraits, you want face tracking and stuff like that. But otherwise, those are just, if in general photography, I would say any camera that's quite modern can make good images. It's more about the photographer than the camera.
Right, and like you said, if you know what you're shooting for, portrait or birding, you're probably already experienced, and you know exactly what you're looking for.
Yeah, that's true.
But you could give me like the best face detect tracking camera ever, and I would still suck it as a portrait photographer.
Yeah, because portrait photography is all about how you click with the model or the person you're photographing, and that's
exactly.
That's the biggest thing, because it's all about the contact, the feeling. But you can see it from the face of the model that you can have the best lights and best cameras, and some can and some cannot. But that's the great thing always about photography, that you don't have to do anything. You can be the best in one and then don't care about the rest.
Yeah, and I'll just answer Sam's question real quick about seeing green fringing on the 75 millimeter. I don't use it enough to be able to answer that, to be honest. I hadn't noticed any kind
neither.
of fringing.
I don't think I can answer that question. I haven't had any problems with that. Well, that's one of those lenses that is one of the best lenses, but still it stays in the cabinet because I have the 45 f1.2, which I use more because the 75 is a bit too long. It's a beautiful image quality and I like it, but it's a bit too long for portraiture, at least for me. But that's of course personal thing.
Yeah, and then Dave's asking me, what is the camera grip and extra batteries for the EM5 Mark II? I think it's an HLD8 is what it's called.
Yes. And it's actually, you need two pieces, which is kind of odd. You need the hand grip and then you need the battery grip. They're separate things.
Yeah, they usually come together though. Yes. If you get the grip with the battery, then it automatically comes with the other piece.
Yeah. But you
can buy the other piece by itself.
Yeah, you can, because I have the other piece. I don't have the battery part at all.
Yeah. So yeah, if you're buying the battery grip, it automatically comes with the other part of the grip.
Yes.
But you can buy the grip by itself. And then the M5 Mark II also has a grip that has an Arca Swiss plate on the bottom, which is different than the other two. Yeah. And it's the only Olympus grip that I know that has that.
Actually, Pen F has also one grip, which is kind of odd that it has. It makes the camera really ugly with the Arca Swiss. Yeah. And I don't think it fits the nature of Pen F. Let's see if there are any more questions. And I'm all good with if you're Rob, we can continue. If you're Rob, all good. You're used to doing 3 or 4 hours anyways, so this is nothing. I know. This is just
Robin.
Yeah, we just started.
I know. I'm just getting warmed up. The coffee just kicked in.
All right. Great.
When I was in Jimmy's, when we were all in Jimmy's, Jimmy Chang's live stream last week, he was struggling with what time he should do his live stream. So he's asking the audience, what's the best time so everybody can come? And everybody had different times, right?
Yes, exactly.
So I said, Jimmy, the only way you can beat this is if you do a 24-hour live stream.
Yes.
And then Robin Wong's like, you first.
Yeah. I was reading those comments on Jimmy's Red 35's live stream. That would be a pretty cool thing to do, a 24-hour stream.
Well, I don't know if you saw, but I was one of the viewers requested that our secret alliance get together, and I think it's April 8th. It's a Wednesday. That there's going to be a supermoon.
Oh, really?
And we all take turns covering that event over that 24-hour period in a live stream.
That could be actually that's next Wednesday, isn't it?
I think so.
Yeah, I've actually already planned for my next guest on my live stream. So.
Oh, okay.
That could be, of course, part of it, but I've already set up. I will tell before I end this who it is. It's going to be an interesting guest. I don't know if it's
good.
I don't know how well known he is, but he's an experienced photographer and an Olympus educator, actually.
Wow. Okay. Awesome.
It's going to be interesting. Interesting. And Robin is saying, yes, you first, Rob, track.
Yeah.
I need to highlight this because
we'll do it right now, Peter. We can keep you on with me.
Yeah,
okay?
I'll need to put some batteries in the charge because I have 37 minutes. What it says on my camera there.
Yeah. Well, I'll do a 24-hour live stream, but it's going to be like the old PBS hours. You don't have that in Finland, but it's going to be a fundraising one. So I'll be accepting donations for 24 hours.
Yeah, I think we get a lot of Norwegian, or you will get a lot of Norwegian viewers because they like the slow TV. They have these, something is going for 24 hours and it's nothing really happened, but they film it and a lot of people watch it. They're really famous for that. It's called slow TV. So we could do slow YouTube sometimes.
Oh my God!
That'd be actually how I don't know if this is the topic right now here, but actually how it could work is that it was on one channel, and then we could take turns as a hosts there, with this system. I think it could work. The only problem is that if something goes wrong let's say that you are the host and something goes wrong and you're asleep, then it's
right.
But otherwise, we can talk that some other time.
We'll talk about that again later.
Let's see if there's any. is
Well, Craig's asking, is the 17 millimeter f1.2 worth it?
I would say that it is if you need it and have the money, because it's not a cheap lens or inexpensive lens, and if you need that focal length and the angle of view and fast lens, and it's a wonderful lens. It's nothing wrong with that. You don't go wrong with it, but there's also the cheaper option, which is of course not weather sealed, but otherwise it's a wonderful lens.
Do you think
it's a beautiful lens?
I mean, do you think the image quality itself is worth the extra price? Let's say you need the lens, you need that focal length. But
I would say that, to be honest, yeah, it is. I've actually compared them. I think it was a year ago I made a video comparing them, and they are different.
Okay, I'm sorry for laughing.
No.
You just reminded me of Matty Salanto. Every time somebody asks a question, he said, "I have a video on that."
Yeah, well, he has a lot of videos. I don't know if Matty's here, but we're laughing at you here.
Yeah.
No, we're not.
Just kill me.
No, we're not laughing.
I could be talking about
the character of the lens and the so-called special bokeh that it has. It looks nicer. It looks buttery smooth, and there is a big difference in the character of the lens.
Wow.
But of course it's a matter of opinion, of course. But you can't go wrong with that lens. I think it's one of the best of those pro lenses that actually Olympus has.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, you make me want to get one, because I love 17 millimeter, but man, it's not cheap.
I know. It is quite expensive. And let's see with the...
yeah, I see a Michael Mercer
to side. Let's highlight that and see. Michael Mercer. I was trying to decide a 12 to 200 or the 7 to 300. Already have the 7 to 300 mil and loved it. Looked at imageries of blur charts for the 12 to... So I bought the 7 to 300. All right, that's an interesting... I've never really... I need to check out what that imaging resource blur charts are. I've never really looked at those. That sounds interesting. But all those lenses are really good, and it would be hard to decide between, let's say, like the 12 to 400 to between the 14 and 150. They're so similar lenses that I would probably go with the smaller one, which is the 14 to 150. It's a bit smaller. Yeah. They're both weather sealed anyway. So, but have you, Rob, tried the 7 to 300 millimeter lens?
70 to 300 or 75?
75, sorry. 75.
Yeah, the 75 to 300. Yeah, I have that lens.
Oh, you have. So how do you find that lens? Because I don't have it. I've used it a couple of times.
I think in really good light, it's excellent. You know, it has to be in really good light. And I'm talking about specifically like for bird photography, and you're at 300 millimeters.
Yes.
So you're like at f6.7. You need to be able to keep the ISO low. You know, less than 400 or 200, and this is my experience. Because when I'm trying to shoot birds in flight, the lens is a little bit soft at 300 millimeters. Yeah. And you add on a high ISO to that and bad lighting, it doesn't look good. It's a mess. So, but in really good light, if I can catch a bird at ISO 200, 1/1000th of a second, at 300 millimeters, at f6.7, beautiful lens, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. But those conditions are very finite, right? It has to be very bright day, usually in the summer midday.
Yes.
I struggled all winter trying to use that lens, and I think I have a vlog where it says "Good day for bad photos." Oh. That was the day I took that lens out. Yeah, I remember that
video. Yeah.
Yeah, that I took the 75 to 300 out, and I just could not get a decent shot because there just wasn't enough light. But yeah, it's very sharp. I compared it actually against another vintage lens, the Nikon 135 f3.5, which is a very sharp lens for a vintage lens. And the 75 millimeter beat it, hands down.
Oh, really?
So I was impressed. I was impressed with the sharpness I was getting out of that lens. And I think it's a testament to all the lenses from Olympus, how good they are, that, what was I going to say? that a lens like that, the 75 to 300, would get any criticism at all uh, is a testament to how good all their lenses are. That all the lenses are very sharp. Because when I compared my Olympus lenses to, say, my 35 millimeter Zeiss f2 Distagon, that's $1,000 lens for
Oh, yes.
35 millimeter f2. Olympus has it. It's right there with it. And but anyway, that's a long answer.
Oh yeah, but
75 is very good for the money. For $400 all day long.
Yep, that is good. And then
Yeah,
there
you
is
can't beat
actually
it.
one question that I want to ask, answer is that Deb Nelson is asking that if we know any idea what Olympus is going to advertise or do now that all the photo shows are being cancelled. Well, first of all, like Olympus was not going to attend Photokina at all, but I think they were going to attend the one that in Birmingham. I think it's Photo Show or whatever it's called. But what they are doing now is let me show. What they're doing now is they have this Home with Olympus.
Oh yeah, I've
thing than
seen
what
some
they
emails from that.
do, and at least here in Europe and in the US, make a Google search for the Home with Olympus thing, and there will be some content. And I know that Joe Edelman from the US, Olympus visionary, is
Yes.
also giving some lectures online. I think they use Zoom for that. At least that's what they use here in Finland. We will have the first EM1 Mark III lecture on Monday here in Finland, and check out for those. There's and others also, because there will be a lot of good lectures about photography, and at least I will check out what they have to offer. The good thing about this is that most of them are most likely available for everybody, no matter where you live, because it's online thing. But there might be, of course, some restrictions on how many can attend. At least we have on the Monday's lecture, we've limited to 15, just so that we can have a discussion also, and people can answer or ask questions about the cameras.
Okay.
But check out those.
I just want to make a comment about Joe Edelman. I met him about a month ago because he had come down to the area for an event before everything happened. And the guy has Olympus tattooed to his arm.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He has Olympus tattooed to his arm.
Oh, that's cool.
And he was shooting Nikon for 30-some years.
I
He
know.
never tattooed Nikon to his arm.
I know, yeah. I know. And there's actually a one guy who works in the biggest camera store here in Helsinki has a OM1 tattoo on his arm.
Wow.
That's a beautiful. I was there giving a lecture before the M1 Mark III came. Then we were teaching or lecturing to the staff of the photo store about the camera and how to sell it and stuff like that. And I was there talking about the features, and then he showed that tattoo. It was beautiful.
Right. Tina has a really good question, because this comes up a lot about using Panasonic lenses on Olympus cameras.
Oh yeah, here we go. I highlight that. I'll bring it to the stream.
But she's asking, I have the Panasonic 100 to 400. I understand there are some functions that will not work. Do you know which ones they are?
Well,
I mean, off the top of my head, I know the Sync IS is not going to work.
Yeah, Sync IS is not working. So you have to decide which stabilizer you use. You want to use the lens, then you have to turn it off from the camera. You can turn it off from the body, or then you just turn it off from the lens, which is more convenient to do. Those are the things. And then there might be, I'm not definitely sure, that is when you import the image to Lightroom or any other editing software, has the camera made some corrections like the camera does with all the what do you call the distortion and stuff that it's made inside the camera. So I'm not positively sure that if it's done to that
and then
lens.
I'm pretty sure you lose high-res shot mode. Not that that's a lens you would use that for.
Yeah.
But
There are some things that you might lose, but it's a good lens, and I know a lot of Olympus photographers who do nature and birds and stuff. They have that lens because for now Olympus doesn't have anything yet.
Right.
They've announced that they will make one 100 and 400 millimeter lens,
Yeah.
but we don't know when it's
But
out.
right. So ultimately, it may be missing some. There may be some compatibility issues, but not in the areas that it counts and what that lens was made for.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's a good lens. Matti Sulanto has one. I think at least he had one from Panasonic, and I tested it for a few days and didn't have any problems.
Yeah.
And let's see, do we have some more? We still have 146 people here. It's been
Oh my God, 140.
Yeah, it's been over 100 all the time.
My goodness.
Yeah, and I haven't checked it out, but I just checked now. But I'm still good, so I can go on. My camera says 31 minutes in the battery, so at least for that.
Yeah, well, people have seen me change my battery midstream. So.
I know, yeah, but it's midnight here. I need to get some sleep, so.
Oh, okay.
So we'll go.
My clock is usually like I'll get hungry or I have to go to the bathroom, then the stream's over. Because it's not like a little thing. I can instantly I'm famished or instantly I gotta go. I don't have time to close the door,
Yeah.
But anyhow.
Let's not get into that details so much.
All right. Polarized has a question there too.
Oh yeah, it's about you mean this video question.
Yeah, at 56. Can someone recommend OMD 4K settings, C4K or UHD, sharpening, contrast, profile? When I shoot 4K, I shoot in natural, and I shoot C4K. Because C4K, the Cinema 4K, is a slightly more cropped top and bottom, right?
Yeah.
But the individual image, proportions of the image are definitely sharper. And it's always at the maximum bit rate, 236 megabits. So you're getting the maximum bit rate and you're getting the best image quality.
Yeah.
The other settings, they have the picture modes. Of course, you can choose all of them. What I like to do actually is I like to shoot in muted picture mode rather than their log profiles that they have. I shoot in muted picture mode with auto gradation. And then it's very easy to just do a little click. I can hit auto click on my post-processing software I use DaVinci Resolve, and it cleans it up perfectly.
Yeah, that's a good way.
Minimal processing.
Yeah, that's
that's what I would recommend. I never use UHD, and I never change the settings. Like I said, I use muted, but I use auto gradation, but I don't change the highlight, shadow, or contrast because it's already it's a little bit too sharp to the natural eye that if you bring it into post-processing, it looks a little too unnatural. So that's why I go with muted and auto gradation. Then I click the little auto button in my software, and it comes out perfectly.
Yeah. The reason that I use the Cinema 4K, which is the C4K, and it's actually 17:9, the aspect ratio on that, is that it has the constant bitrate, and the UHD bitrate is changing, and sometimes you lose the image quality a bit. It's not a big deal when you do YouTube videos because YouTube is, not the algorithm, but the what do you call the compression is sometimes horrible. But I always use the C4K just because it's the best quality, and then if you put something really good in YouTube, it's going to be less bad, but it's not a big deal in YouTube anyways. But for client work, it's always the Cinema 4K.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And let's see.
And honestly, I'd say a little over half my videos, I use my tutorials and stuff. I just shoot in full HD.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah, I use 4K because then I can crop, because I, sometimes say words differently, and then I want to crop because I start thinking of the words and stuff like that. Then I just, take the pause away and crop it. That's why I use 4K. It's the most.
I thought about using it just for the, cutting in, zooming in, back and forth on me. But that's just too fancy. I don't got time for that.
Well, I do it because then I can make it. I don't like the jump cuts that much, which goes really fast. Sometimes I do it, but it depends.
Yeah.
Speed. And then there is another video question. That's from Polarized. Okay, you're welcome. I'm glad that you got the answer. Which software do you use? Will the speed of the SD card affect the quality? I'm not really sure about. I don't think it does. It has to be fast enough, at least V60 grade, which I found out. V60. If you have V90, it's even better. But I don't think it affects the quality. It might skip some frames if it's too slow card. And
yeah, I don't know if that's ever been tested, but I think technically a V30 card will be fine for the C4K.
Yeah, technically, but I've had some frames skipped with that card, so that's why I use V60 always.
Yeah, but it doesn't hurt to get a little bit better, right? Because a V30 card is technically, I think, 240 megabits.
Yeah.
Which is right at the limit of the 236 that the camera puts out.
Yes, exactly.
So, it's better just to get a V60 like Peter does.
Yeah.
But for everything else, V30 is fine.
Yes. And I think.
And then I use DaVinci Resolve.
Yeah, that's a really good. I use the Adobe Premiere Pro. That I've been using that for many, many years, and haven't really taken the time to learn DaVinci Resolve, which I've heard that it's really good and fast editing. But of course, when you switch the tools you work, you always have some learning curve. And somebody said it takes about a month and a half to get used to DaVinci Resolve, but I don't know. Excuse me. I'm not sure.
I could see that. Yeah, I could see that. I mean, it would be shorter if you already have experience with Premiere.
Yeah.
That you could pick up quickly on Resolve.
Of course, yeah.
But I think DaVinci gets a lot of praise because the free version does so much.
It's good enough for most work.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like, it does an excellent job for free.
Yeah.
I think when people start talking about the paid version versus Premiere, which is a subscription, that's where you need to look at the comparison differences of what people like and dislike about each one.
Yes.
But when somebody says the free version is awesome, you don't need anything else. Well, I mean, it didn't cost anything, so it's easy to say that.
That's true.
But anyhow, yeah. But I use Resolve. He uses Premiere. I think they both do great.
Robin Wong answered here that he uses DaVinci Resolve.
Yeah.
For his. And then. And then there's this question: how long did it take to learn DaVinci? I said that it takes about a month and a half. I don't know if that's the case.
I took. I was using Corel Visual Studio, probably for about the first year or so of my videos, and that didn't take too long to learn. So, but when I went to DaVinci Resolve. Yeah, it was a bunch of baby steps. It's like, how do I find the movie to put into the timeline was the hardest part for me at first.
Sounds that it's not very intuitive then.
Yeah, it's not. It's if you're a videographer, it's very intuitive. Everything makes sense, right? Because a lot of software is similar. But I was going from like this $20 consumer software.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
To this, which is a full-fledged. So it really depends on how familiar you are with video editing. If you're already familiar with video editing, your learning curve is going to be very short.
Oh,
but if you were like me, where you were just clipping movies together very easily in a $20 software, it took me a lot of baby steps to learn how to do different things. Even to this day, I'm still learning things. That software can do. So I to say that it takes about a month, maybe, but I think it's really about doing it in baby steps to get there to where you eventually be very proficient. And fortunately, there's a lot of tutorials online.
Oh yes, that's the best way to learn. And yes, I use Premiere Pro, but I don't know every feature that it has. No way, I don't need them all. But if want to do something, I usually go to YouTube and check out that if it's possible, and then I can find it, and then I learn new things. So it's constant learning. And there's 131 Logan said that Final Cut is also good, and I think Mari Sulanto is using Final Cut Pro for his videos, and that's also good. I used to have, when it was, I think it was version 7 when I used to use the Final Cut Pro 7 back in the early days of video.
Yeah.
And then there is some question from Mark Miller about MC14 that he's trying to get or planning on getting. And remember that it's only compatible with the 40 to 150 millimeter f2.8 Pro and the 300 millimeter f4 lenses so far. So if you don't have either of those lenses, then don't buy it. Just a reminder.
Yeah.
That it's because the construction is the way that it doesn't fit the other lenses. It's not possible to attach to other lenses.
Yeah, and I think the only reviews I've seen, because I don't own that piece of gear either, but when I was looking at it and the reviews I've seen, it's one of those, you have to pixel peep at 400% to tell the difference between using the teleconverter and not using it. And even then, I still couldn't see the difference.
Yeah, there's not a big difference. And the same.
The bigger problem is you're losing a little bit of light, right?
Yeah.
You have to multiply your aperture at 1.4.
Yes, and then there's the MC20, which is the doubles the focal length, and that also makes it, doubles or halves the ability to catch
and someone someone brought up the point or asked the question, should I get the 300 millimeter or the 40 to 150 Pro with the 2x teleconverter, or should I get the 75 to 300 for like $400? And if money no object, get the Pro lens. It'll be a lot better, even though the aperture is the same.
Yeah,
it'll be a lot sharper.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think this is a good thing for everybody to see, that what Joe Morano says, that he had never pixel peeped past 200% ever. That's if I usually watch or check the image quality sharpness with 100% because nobody's looking at the image higher than that anyway. So
yeah, I like to look at the color and the sort of the fringing, like little things like that, which is almost non-existent anymore.
Yeah, but 200% is definitely enough.
Yeah. And that's the real Joe Morano, by the way. It's a little inside joke.
Oh, okay. All right. Cool.
I always call him the real Joe.
Cool. So let's see. There are not that many questions. Do you have any? I think we should start wrapping this up because the questions. There's still 110 people watching, but the questions are.
Oh, okay.
Are not increasing anymore. There are less and less questions. But do you have anything to?
Oh well.
To say about.
Wow. I'm always bad at.
Let me ask you, what are the videos that you are planning on? And we're not talking about the product video that we already talked about, but maybe after a couple of weeks, you have any plans?
Yeah. Well, I really don't have any plans. I get up every day and I just think about what can I do today?
Isn't that nice?
Yeah. I don't. If it's a nice day, I can go out and photo walk, or if I'm stuck in the house, I'm going to try and find things to do around the house. Yeah. Like right now, I'm dyeing. I'm using food coloring to dye some water.
Oh, really?
And I'm freezing it into ice cubes.
Cool. Sounds interesting.
So I'm thinking about like taking different color ice cubes, crushing them, shining some light on it, and then do a time lapse of it as it's melting. Just stupid things. But I'm sorry, guys. I don't know what I'm doing day to day. To be honest,
I think you know a lot what you're doing because I've been following your videos. So, that's all good. But I think we're starting to wrap up, and now I think I will reveal who is going to be my next guest on next Wednesday around the same time. We haven't set up the time yet, but it's going to be Olympus educator Matt Suez, and he's been.
Oh.
Also, he has had a very long career as a photographer. He's been doing journalism and sports and everything, and now He's an Olympus educator, and what he did was he's been doing some fine art printing and macro photography quite a lot in his channel, and he's going to be my guest next time here. But I think it's time to say goodbye, and thanks so much, Rob. This has been wonderful talking to you.
Thank you so much.
And I've been guest on your show, so it was really nice to have you a guest and ask you some questions, because you've been always asking me some questions, and now I got to ask you some questions.
Thanks for having me, Peter. It's great talking to all of your viewers here, and we'll see you on Sunday on my stream, actually.
Oh yeah, so. And if you haven't subscribed to Rob's channel yet, please do go right now to his channel and press that subscribe button, because I think, isn't it me and Robin is going to be on your stream, and we will be talking about the videos we have been making this week.
Yes.
I think that's the point. And of course, probably we'll answer some questions. I don't know what you have planned, but most likely there will be.
No, we'll just wing it.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. But thank you so much, everyone.
All right. Thank you, Peter.
And wherever you are, stay safe, and think something that you can do at home with photography. Learn new things, go back to your old images and edit them again, or watch YouTube videos. There are a lot of great stuff online. But thanks for watching, and bye for now.